Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. In this video I'm going to try to cover all of the different mechanical systems we have to put in place for your next assignment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check a couple of settings and make sure we're all on the same page. So we're going to be working in our level 1 mechanical ceiling plan the entire time, so make sure you have that selected and make sure you are set to a fine detail level. Next, let's open our visibility graphics menu, and under ceilings here you're going to want to make sure your transparency is set to 50% and go ahead and check this halftone over here on the right. The last thing we need to check is over here in the properties menu for your ceiling plan. I want you to scroll on down to view range and hit edit. And you can see here that mine is set to 5 foot 6 inches. That means that it's going to cut through the doors. So you'll be able to see all of your door openings and some furniture. Basically, you'll be able to see everything that is up to 5 foot 6 inches. So now we have that, we can actually get started. So first thing we're going to do is we have a bunch of families that we have to go and load in. So go to your Insert tab and hit Load Family. First off, let's load our air supplies. So about everything we need is under this mechanical folder. So I'm going to go Mechanical, MEP, Airside Components, and we want air terminals. And the first one we want is this supply diffuser, rectangular face, round neck, hosted. We want the hosted version, not the version right below it. So make sure you click that one. Go ahead and click open. We're going to go back to the same place, so load family. Go on down to the mechanical folder, MEP, airside components, air terminals. And this time we want return grill with trim ceiling mounted. So make sure you select that one. Go ahead, hit open. Mine's already loaded in, so that's why I got that prompt. Do this 2 more times. Hit load family, mechanical, MEP, airside, and next let's go on down to this terminal units folder. Go all the way down to the bottom and we want this VAV unit single duct. So the very last one on the list. Go ahead and open that. And then one last time, load family, mechanical, MEP, airside components, and this time we want air handling units. So open that, and the one we are looking for is air handling unit split system horizontal. So go ahead and open that one up. So those are our 4 things we're going to need. So before we proceed any further with Revit, let me briefly explain just some quick terminology and stuff for HVAC. So if we switch over to this diagram here, I made this and it pretty much simplifies everything you guys need to know. So all airflow starts at your air handler and the whole cycle goes counterclockwise here. So VAV boxes, and those, your thermostat changes the amount of airflow and the temperature that comes out of those boxes. From those boxes, the air goes to the diffusers in the ceiling and distributes the air to the room. After the air is in the room, it goes back up into the returns and then over to your air handler. Now when we actually draw our ductwork for our building, we will draw it in this path, and you will see what I mean by that here in a second. So now we got that covered, we can jump back on over. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to place all of our equipment just so it's there. So let's go over to our Systems tab, and we want this Air Terminal button. And you will have a lot less stuff than I do because I've used this file before. what we want is our supply diffuser. So this is the one. Supply diffuser, rectangular face, round neck, hosted. Make sure it's this hosted version. And I'm going to use this 24 by 24 inch face with a 6-inch diameter neck. So I'm going to select that. And before you try to place anything, look up at this top menu. And you can see there's this placement section again, just like when we placed our luminaires in the previous assignment. So make sure you click place on face. And then once you do that, you'll be able to place these on your ceiling. So I'm just going to place one right there. And I'm going to have to turn it. But first I'm going to select it. All the way at the top here, I have this up arrow, right arrow, left arrow, down arrow. That's these 4 arrows that came along with that piece of equipment. I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck all of those just to kind of clean up our drawing. Then I need to rotate mine just so it lines up with that grid there. And then I'll move it so it's in line with that grid. So we're going to kind of use a rule of thumb for placing our diffusers, and that's going to be 1 diffuser for about every 150 to 200 square feet in your room. So for this one room right here, that's going to be about 4 diffusers. So I'm just going to copy this one over here. Make sure I check multiple. And typically your air system, it's not random. What you're going to want to do is kind of have some order to it. Make sure things are in straight lines. You can see my diffusers fit nicely in my ceiling grid, so everything kind of works out here. So now I got my 4 diffusers in there. Next thing I want to place is my return grill. So I want to go ahead and try to find that. Yours should be much easier to find. Here we go. Return grill with trim, ceiling mounted. So how about the 15-inch by 15-inch face with the 12 by 12-inch neck? Once again, make sure you check this place on face button and then go ahead and place it. Typically for your return grills, what we're going to want to do is they're either towards the center of the room or over a doorway. So for now, I'm just going to put mine right here. Once again, I need to rotate mine real quick. And that's all the supply diffusers and return grills for this one room. So the next piece of equipment we need to throw in is our VAV box. So that's going to be under mechanical equipment and VAV unit single duct. I'm just going to grab, let's say, an 8-inch VAV. I'm going to place it outside this room, and you're going to have to change this offset value over here in your properties menu. Now what that is that's the height off the ground. Now all of your ductwork is between your ceiling and the floor of the next level, so that's going to vary for each and every one of you guys. For mine right now, I'm just going to use 12 feet, and hopefully that works. We'll see here in a bit. So I'm going to place it, and I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees. And that is all the equipment we need for this room. Now we just have to do some duct work. So let's see here. For all of your supply ducts, those are going to be round. For this return duct right here, that's going to be a square duct. So let's do our supply first. So under systems, there's this duct button. I'm going to click that. And I'm going to want to make sure I switch to a round duct here. And remember, the size we picked for our diffusers was 6-inch, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. And I'm going to change this offset value to 12 feet as well, just so we're kind of in line with this VAV box over here. Now, I'm going to try to draw one real quick, and you can see as I move my cursor around, I'm getting these blue dotted lines. So it's trying to snap kind of to it to where everything is at a right angle. So we kind of want to keep doing that throughout the project. We don't want to just start drawing our ducts from any kind of angle. So I'm just going to draw it right there. And the next thing we got to do before we hook these up is we have to change some automatic settings. So I'm going to click on this duct. I'm going to hit Edit Type. Now what we're going to change are these routing preferences. The routing preferences automatically put your fittings in there so you don't need to think about what you're doing. So when we click that, your menu should have a whole bunch of nones in it. Mine's already been filled out. So on the assignment page, you will see a list, and that list is everything that I have loaded in right here. So what you're going to want to do is hit this Load Family button, and let's do this round elbow one for an example. So I'm going to hit Load Family, Duct, and we're going to want to go Fittings. This is for our round duct, and this is an elbow. Now the elbow is a round gore elbow, so I'm going to load in round gore, and then if you hit this drop down arrow, you should have a bunch of options. Make sure you select 4 gore 1D. And the process is exactly the same for everything else here. So what you're going to want to do is just take about 10 minutes and either look at the assignment sheet or pause the video right here and just make sure all of your settings are the same as mine and everything is loaded in identical. But once you have that, you can hit OK, apply, and OK. Now we can just hook everything up. So if I click on this duct, I'm going to grab this lower handle right here, and I'm going to drag it till I get that little snap. When I let go, it's automatically going to connect to that diffuser right there. So if we go on over to a 3D view, now I already have my roof shut off so you can kind of see what's going on. You can see that we have our VAV box, all of our diffusers are there, our return grills right there, and that automatically snapped in to that diffuser. So under those routing preferences, that is what that does. It makes it so it automatically does it for us, kind of makes it so we don't have to think quite as much, and it saves us a lot of time. Next, I'll show you a slightly different way to get your diffusers in there. So if I draw this little duct again, and I hit escape, there's also this flex duct button. So if I click this flex duct here, once again I want to go over to round, and I want to make this 6 inches so it's the same size. But if I just draw it from this point here over to the centroid of this diffuser, it's going to automatically snap to it, and you can see the difference. So this is a flex duct connection, and this is a hard duct connection. For this assignment, what we're going to want you to do is primarily use hard duct connections. Flex ducts, they work and they're very quick and very easy to use, but in actual design practice, they're rarely used because there's a lot of limitations set on them due to airflow and such. So for our purposes, let's just try to stick to this hard duct method. So next, I'm just going to quickly try to finish this room here. So I'm going to draw this section, and it works best if you kind of draw a section and drag it over most of the time. As you can see, ductwork gets to be very, very buggy. So if you're not perfectly lined up, like that was slightly off, probably like a ½ inch, it's not going to want to snap to it. So you're going to have to do a lot of trial and error in this assignment to make sure everything works out. So let's see if this one works. Yep. And I'm pretty sure if I undo that real quick, if you right click these and there's this draw duct button, you can also just start from there and then do it. And it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Maybe if we get rid of this, it'll work. So we want to change this, so 12 feet, do that, and I get the exact same result. So now we have all these. Next thing we're going to want to do, I'm going to move this return a little bit. We want to get everything into one duct. So I'm going to change to an 8-inch round duct. And I'm just going to go the length of this room here. So the entire length of that room, it's right there. Now we're going to want to combine these up to where that's all on the same line. So to do that, I'm just going to click this duct here and grab this handle. And if I extend it to where I'm just on the edge here and let go, it automatically throws that fitting in there. Now to connect this side, I'm going to want to click that fitting, and we get this plus sign over here. Go ahead and just click that plus, and you can see how that add a connection to that other side. So now we can just connect both sides to our duct, and we're good to go. Now you can see how mine wasn't completely lined up when I drew it, so I can just fudge it a little bit here, and everything just kind of moves together. Do the same thing to the other set down here. You can see once again, if you change anything, it's going to just automatically throw things in there. So if you make it, say I do this up here, it's just going to try to fix everything for you. If you hold shift, everything can only move in 90 and 45 degree angles. So I'd probably get in a habit of doing that just so everything just kind of comes out nice. And then if I want to be real particular, I'll flip this around right here just because it looks a little bit better. When they actually install that fitting, it would be facing that direction. Same thing for this one up here. I'm just going to flip that. Then we got two more things we need to do. We need to throw a cap on this section, so let's just go ahead and click that. And up here on this upper menu, there's this cap open ends button. If we just click that, it automatically caps that duct. Last thing we need to do is just hook up to our VAV box here. So if we click our VAV box, you can see how there's an in at 8 inches here, and there's an out that's 11 inches by 10 inches. So for VAV boxes, your in is always a round duct because a supply duct is a round duct, and your output is always a square or a rectangular duct. So since we're on the inside, we're just going to drag this over and hook that right up, grab the duct, and now that is connected. Threw that little fitting in just because we weren't perfectly level with it, but that's okay. So when we go over to 3D, we can see that that room is now completely done. So you're going to want to do that with every single one of your rooms. If we jump on over to kind of a completed model I have right now, you can see how things are going to fill up pretty fast here. So for me, I used 7 VAV boxes throughout this building. This room has its own VAV box. The room we just did as an example has its own VAV box. I grouped these 4 rooms here together and put them on one box. And then the 2 big rooms each got their own. This room got its own box. And then this group of 4 rooms over here got a VAV box. So what you're going to want to do is kind of go through your building and group it into zones for heating and cooling, and that will decide how many VAV boxes you put throughout your building. And then once you have that, basically do the exact same thing we just did, and you'll however many different groupings of ducts to VAV boxes. But once you're to your VAV box, what you're going to want to do is connect all those VAV boxes into one single duct. So if we go back to that little diagram I had right here, so we have all of our diffusers and they're going to VAV boxes right now. So next thing we need is get all the VAV boxes to one single line. And we're going to do that by using square ducts. So if we zoom in here, this is the exact same process we just used for drawing our round ducts, except they're going to be square. So you're just going to draw square ducts connecting everything together. So mine runs here, I grab that VAV box, I already grabbed those two, runs here, grabs that one, and then on this end I grab this one here, and this one here. And make sure you go in, and once again you're going to have to change your routing preferences. So under Edit Type, my routing preferences are these. You can either pause the video here or just look at the assignment page and go ahead and load everything in so that your preferences look identical to mine. But once you have those so they match, you're just going to connect everything into one localized point, and then we need to place your air handler. So I'm going to jump on back over to our other model and go 3D, and I'm going to turn the roof back on. And we are going to place our air handler on the roof. So go to a top-down view here, and your air handler is under mechanical equipment. So go to your systems tab, and there's this mechanical equipment button, the same one we used for our VAV boxes. And click the drop-down arrow, and go ahead and find this air handling unit split system horizontal. And I'm just going to use this 30,000. It doesn't matter which one you actually use because we're not doing a design, we're just drawing right now. So pick any one you want. I'm going to grab this one, and I'm just going to place it outside over here. So currently it's over here sitting on the ground. We're going to put our air handlers on the roof though. So there's no real scientific approach I'm going to use to do this. I'm just going to go to this left side view. I'm going to go ahead and drag it and just kind of set it up here to where it's just kind of on the roof. If I go to this front view, I can kind of center it wherever I want. Use the arrow keys to slightly move it. If you don't want to move it a whole bunch, you can just nudge it a little bit. But if we jump on over to our final model and I turn the roof back on here, you can see what that's going to look like. So once again, it's just kind of sitting on the roof, and then what I did was I did a generic in-place model to make this little stand just so it looks a little bit better. It's not floating there. So how you're going to do that is under Architecture and Component, click this drop down arrow, and that's a model in place, generic model. And since you guys have already done the family assignment and you have an AutoCAD background, you should be able to figure out how to do that one. It's just like modeling a family, except you're doing it actually in the Revit model that you're working in. And I just made it so I don't have a floating air handler on my roof. It looks more complete. So it doesn't need to be the greatest model in the world for that. Just kind of put something there so it looks a little bit more normal. Next, we have a couple more things, then we're done. So once we get all of our supply lines connected from our VAV boxes, we just need to take one centralized duct, which is this vertical duct here, and we run it into our air handler. And if you click on your air handler, just like the VAV box, you have an in and you have an out. So my out is 11 by 20, my in is 20 by 22. So if you remember that graph, your in is going to be your air return, because that's where the air is coming into the air handler. Your out is going to be your air supply, because that is either the cool or warm air coming out of your air handler. So nothing too scientific there. If you guys are going to mess up anywhere, it's going to be drawing a vertical duct. So let's cover that real quick. To draw a vertical duct, I'm going to try to throw one in just on this duct right here. You're going to want to be in your ceiling plan, and we're going to draw a section cut. Now the section cut button is up here. It's right next to the 3D view button that we've been using. This little circle with the arrow. I'm going to click that. Then I'm going to draw a line right across this duct. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to go straight down and click right there. And I'll move this dotted line so it's a little bit closer. And then just right click and hit go to view. So this is that duct that we just drew a line across. Now, there's nothing too terribly difficult from this point. Here, you just draw a duct. So I'll make this one a 10 by 10. And you're just going to want to make sure you're kind of right above it. And draw a duct straight down into it. And make sure you're kind of on fine. If you're not on fine, it's not going to work that well. So, and actually let's draw this an 8 by 8 so we're actually smaller in that duct. I didn't realize that was a 10-inch wide duct there. So now you can see it's actually snapping. Previously it wasn't snapping. So when I click, it's going to throw that fitting in there automatically. So if we go back to our 3D, we now have a vertical duct there. So that is how you're going to change your elevations. So once you have that, you're going to duct in to your air handler. And the last thing you have to do is duct all your returns. And the process does not change at all for that. It's basically the exact same as your supply lines, except there's no VAV box now, and we're using square ducts. So go ahead and just draw square ductwork connecting all of your returns. So if we look at these three rooms, you can see I have square ductwork coming out of all of them, and it's just combining everything as we go. So we're combining all of these into one centralized line, just like we did on the supply line. And then you can see that this is kind of misaligned right here, so we're going to kind of ignore that. But we're just going to combine everything to one line, and we're going to go into the other end of our air handler. And once you have all that, you're pretty much done. So the way I would break down this project, you're going to have 2 weeks to do it, is day one, I would go ahead and load everything in, and I would place all of your diffusers throughout all of your rooms, place one return grill in every room, and then go ahead and place your VAV boxes where you're going to want them, just so you know how many there are. Place your air handler on the roof, and then get your routing preferences set for your round duct and your square duct. If you can do that all on the first day, you're going to be looking pretty good. For day two, I would try to draw all of my supply lines. So go ahead and draw all of the round duct in each individual room, all the way up to the VAV box, and then using square or rectangular duct, combine all the VAV boxes into one line, and then run it into your air handler on your roof. For the third day, I would finish your return system. So draw all of your square ducts, combine it into one line, and run it into your air handler. And for the fourth day, I would just double check everything, have myself or Kuhn check it and make sure everything's right, and then you're done. If by chance you have a multi-story building, this assignment is probably going to take quite a while for you. If your floors are identical, what you can do is do one floor and then copy all the ductwork up to however many stories you have, and then we will run 2 vertical ducts throughout your entire building. So like I have one here and one here, you will have 2 the entire length of your building, and it will grab every single floor and then go up to your air handler. So you're going to want like a little section of wall, like this area here in this front of my building would work well. Just a little section that is actually sealed off that you can run ducts the length of your building in. So either a walled off section, or you'll have to draw a wall in to hide them or something. But if we run that problem, we'll work through it and figure stuff out. Otherwise, that is everything for your mechanical systems. So if you can get all of that figured out, you're looking pretty good. And that's it. Hope this video helped you guys.